Geraint Thomas, welcome to the Sports Agents. So much to talk to you about, covering actually a range of sports and things that have happened in your life. But I want to focus on the book to start off with, because that's what you're doing. You're going around talking about your new book. And what I loved, and I haven't read it all yet, is how much you go into the detail of things that you remember from childhood, and even the road names and the people and the kids and the clubs and all that stuff. Were you keeping diaries for your whole life?
No. It's all just in there. It really winds up my wife because I forget the milk when I go to the supermarket. But I just remember all this random stuff from back in the day. But no, yeah, it's a funny one because when you're an athlete, you never look back. You're always looking forward, what's next and whatever. But now doing this book, obviously, I had to, and it was really nice to do. To be honest, as you're going through it, more and more stuff comes back to you, and yeah, it was nice to sort of reminisce really and talk.
It was the purity of the stories as well, chappers, because what struck me was you're in an area of the world. I know you're a big football fan. Rugby and football, the two dominant sports, obviously, and you had a brilliant line about when you knew rugby wasn't for you, and at that point, you're into your cycling, and it's becoming more and more important to you. But that's quite a big kind of brave thing to do, I think, isn't it? To do something that is out of the ordinary to your peers, something that nobody else was really doing, but you knew you felt good doing it.
Yeah, it was definitely different, especially back then before the whole sort of cycling boom. But yeah, I just loved it. I made some good mates down at Maindy where I started in Cardiff, and it just grew from there. And yeah, it was definitely nobody in Whitchurch, a school I went to, really understood any of it. But yeah,
Did it isolate you? Did it isolate you? Say you made mates within the sport that you were doing, but within sort of your mainstream life, I suppose, which was school at the time. Did it isolate you?
Not really, to be honest. It was kind of, I still had some. Well, my best man was a mate from school, and still had a nice group of mates in school, and I just wasn't sort of going out with them regularly. I still went out a fair amount, which my coach at the time was like, "Come on, you need to sort of focus a bit now." But no, yeah, it was it's a weird one because when I did my first book, I was kind of like, look, I don't have any crazy stories about being chased by hippos or have pythons in my backyard through me, or or Brad with his some of his past. So I was like, I'm just a guy from Cardiff. What am I going to write about? But yeah, and it was just similar with that. I wasn't some weird introverted guy on my own in school or anything that just shaved his legs and rode a bike. But yeah, it was just a nice upbringing, really.
Would you say in general then you're quite what the right phrase? I mean, laid back is obviously the right, but this is just kind of what I was good at and what I did, and life's fairly normal aside from that little bit.
Yeah, basically, yeah. As I say, still went out into town with my mates, and I worked hard in school. I wanted to. I don't know. I've liked sort of that challenge almost. And when I was in school, it was the same. It was like, right, if I don't do this work now, I'm not going to do it because I'm on my bike or whatever. I'm going away to a race, and yeah, I'm all or nothing really. I'm either into it or I'm just not at all.
It
art
gave
and
you,
music.
It gave you a structure, I think, didn't it? And in your life. But the other thing as well that really struck me was how you loved the Tour de France. That as a kid, that must have been quite unusual. Other kids weren't running home from school watching recordings of that day's racing, were they? And your parents recognised this passion. And I think for any parent with a sporty kid, when they've got a passion, helping to fuel and feed it is so important. And the way your dad spoke to you as well, that struck me as he got it right. So many parents get it wrong. He seemed to be able to communicate with you in a way that helped you talk about your sport without putting pressure on you.
Yeah, it was kind of that was the big thing that stood out with my dad, was how he brought me up, and what he said to me was similar to then when I started working with Steve Peters in the British cycling system. And a lot of what Steve said, I was like, oh, that's kind of like how I've been brought up to think, and my beliefs. So and that sort of cemented that way of thinking really, and gave me even more confidence that how I went about it and what I was doing was kind of what would work for me. And so yeah, I got a lot of my dad to sort of thank for that really.
What were his messages then? What were his messages, and then how did they compare to Steve Peters' message?
It was always just getting out there and just doing your best and not worrying about the outcomes. And he'd always find a positive, even if like I could win without winning almost. You know, it's like, oh, you got a scalp today. It was always, that was a big phrase, like you got a scalp. Like you beat that kid. You've never beaten that kid before. So that was always a big plus. And then, you know, whenever we'd be driving back from a race and I'd had like a good result or whatever, I'd be like, oh, Dad, did you think I would have won today? And he knew what he was always like, no, I didn't think you would have won today. And then, you know, you feel so much better
that
in
was so
yourself.
clever of him, because I think a lot of parents find that conversation tough, that going home from the race or the match conversation when maybe the outcome hasn't been what they, you know, the kid hoped it would be. And I wondered how much of your early success was psychological and how much was physical. And when you look back at your development, was that mental side of things actually as important?
Yeah, definitely. I think it set me up nicely for, you know, my foundations of the sort of the mental side of things. Set me up nicely for, you know, to go on and, you know, win Olympic gold when I was 22 and things. Like, it wasn't like I had to work a lot harder in that area than some people might. So yeah, I got a lot to thank my dad for. Really.
But when you go into it with Olympic gold on the line, when you go into a Tour de France, are you still thinking just do your best, or has it changed at that stage? Because there is then pressure.
No, it was always the same, because like it was always the same process really. Without even thinking about it, I was doing the same mental like preparation, so to speak, before every race. You know, and the way I went into like a race in Maindy was similar to how I went into it in Beijing, which kind of feels mad at the Olympics, because I was just, and especially when you're feeling good and you know you've ticked all the boxes on the way to that point and you've done everything you can, and you're like, well, you know, this is the fun bit now. This is the race.
Do you know what strikes me though, in that the challenge of that is how many people may have tried to have changed your approach over the years from Mendy to Olympics to Tour de France, because that's what can happen on an athlete's. I mean, look at how many golfers fiddle about with their swings or whatever it may be. So you must have had a real inner belief and drive to just look, I know what works. I'm not listening to you or you or you.
Yeah, and I think you know, looking back when I see some of the things like what my dad did, like, I don't know, there might have been certain people that he kind of didn't keep me away from, but like did less with this guy or that guy, and like at the time I'm like, but why? Like, I want to go and do that race or hang out with this guy's kids a bit more, and then when you look back, you're like, wow, yeah, it's so clear now. But at the time, when you're, you know, 13, 14, you don't see it. But and then as you progress, it's the same really, and just learning to just take snippets from everyone, or not everyone, like people you respect.
You respect.
And stuff. Yeah.
One of the other things that's interesting that worked from kind of young rider to professional was, and I didn't realise this, was how you didn't always get the best equipment until the very end of the process. So by the time you get to a major championship, you've been training on stuff that's heavier and harder. So when you're fit and feeling brilliant, you're on the best bike. And that kind of happened in your childhood as well, didn't it?
Yeah. And psychologically as well, then when you come to the big event and you just, even if the kit isn't quicker, but they tell you it is, and we've tested it and we do this and that, and like, and then you're like, wow, we're getting this, like, it obviously was better. So you just
feel
feel so much better again, and you know you're in peak condition, and you've got all this kit coming, and other teams as well. Like, so for instance, in 2012 the World Championships were in March, and then the Olympics obviously in June, July, and we beat Australians in Melbourne with our tatty kit, basically like helmets with little cracks in, training skin suits, and they had their full Olympic kit, full dress rehearsal, and we beat them narrowly by less than a tenth of a second, I think it was, but they knew what we had to come as well, and I think that's where we won those Olympics, was in March in Melbourne, really.
Was that deliberate, or did it just happen? Could you
was the order delayed?
Yeah. Could you have had your all singing, all dancing kit, or was it deliberately?
No, it was always deliberate. Yeah, it was always the thing that British cycling did.
So, I mean, they're the 1%, aren't they? That Dave Brailsford became famous for. That is right there.
Yeah.
What was going on?
Funny
Give
enough,
us a little
yeah, that's what my dad did as well.
Yeah.
You know, it was always, I don't know, whenever I was training, he would like I used to put weights on my bike and all sorts, and just to make training harder. And then you'd go to a race and you'd have, well, no weights on your bike and maybe a nicer set of wheels or whatever. And yeah, that's always how I've done stuff, really. Yeah.
What was that period, the British cycling period under Dave Brailsford, going from underdogs maybe to them being the team to be absolutely shot at by the rest of the world?
Yeah, I loved it.
Which bit? The underdog bit or the being shot there to be shot at bit?
Both, really. The underdog bit of proving what we could do, and which we did in Beijing, and then come London. Then I've said it previously. It's like people were giving us a gold medal for team pursuit before we even got in the velodrome, because the success we had, and then we were world champions and whatever, but being the ones at the top and we're like here for a reason. We deserve to be here. Let's go out and show what we can do. And it was that sort of attitude, and it's kind of like I'm kind of similar to Cav in that I've got a similar sort of confidence and belief in myself, but Cav walks around like Conor McGregor and he'll tell everyone, whereas I keep that to myself, and I just have that inside. But you still have that, and I think being so laid back and a bit sort of like blasé about stuff like now, I think people get the wrong impression of me sometimes when it comes to that.
Well, they think you're not as serious as you are.
Yeah. I think when it came to training and stuff, I'd never miss a day. You'd always do more, and you were always fully focused on what I had to do. But then, and with the diet and everything, but then when there was time to enjoy yourself, I would. And yeah, I didn't take myself too seriously with people either then, but when it came to training and preparing for the big goal, it was.
Do you think one of the reasons for your success as a team were the fact that you were all different personality wise? I mean, you look at any team, I know cycling can be individual, but you can also be a team as well, that one of the successes of team sport is not just the ability, it's chemistry, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I think, the culture we had in British cycling and then in Sky, the way of working, the way we all pushed each other, and it wasn't just about because Froome was at the top and then I was sort of coming up underneath, and there was a few guys in between, and I wanted to move them out the way, and they wanted to keep their place, and it was all done in the right way though. It was never too much, and then it was the same throughout the team, and whatever, because cycling, it is a team sport, and it's similar to say football, where you have certain positions and you have certain roles within the team, and there was always competition for every role, and then that went into the staff as well then. So the guys in the cars behind the directors, who do the tactics, they're on the radio, it was the same thing. They had competition to be the number one for the tour, and I think even the coaches and that culture of just pushing each other and really striving to be the best is that was the main thing for me, is the main thing in the success here.
The longevity of your career, I think we need to kind of acknowledge how you keep going when you go into such a dark place mentally, when you're on the tours, when you're on the road in particular, and how much it hurts, and where that kind of pain locker is, to then know you're going to go there again, because I imagine it doesn't get any easier or any lighter, no matter what your experience, but to do that time and time again. How do you do that? Because a few weeks off at the end of the season isn't enough time to forget, is it? It's not like childbirth.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to take your word for that, Gabby.
Yeah, I won't go down that
I've done some tough bike rides. I know I always bring it back to my sporting experience, Jappos, but
I think I always just love pushing myself. It's something I've always, even since I was a kid, whether it was playing rugby or, well, actually no, some of those bumps got a bit heavy. I was like, I don't need to do this anymore. But just like whether I was swimming or running or cycling, I just loved the challenge of just trying to be quicker than the last time. And it was always, a lot of it was always in myself and being, improving. And then when you see I'm improving and I'm going up the ranks or whatever, then you get even more confidence and enjoyment out of it then to continue that, really.
Did you enjoy it?
Enjoy hurting myself, really, yeah, in a sadistic sort of way. Yeah, like there's that
So
feeling.
if you're
of
on a
hard
massive
training
climb, it's
session.
not a technical question, this, but if you're on a massive climb in the Tour de France, are you enjoying it? Are you enjoying the pain in that moment?
Eventually, afterwards, maybe. In that moment, it depends how much pain you're in and how you're sort of feeling in relation to everyone else. So if you're feeling quite good and it's hurting, but you see people are getting dropped, you're like, oh, this is great. But if you're the one hanging onto the back and they're slowly pulling away, then it's not quite as enjoyable. But at the end of the day, like after a big hard day on the road, like that satisfaction of just lying down and be like, wow, that was a good day.
Stupid question. Where does it hurt?
Everywhere really. Like obviously different rate. Like Paris-Roubaix, for instance, your arms, your neck, your muscles, your shoulders, because you're on like big cobblestones bouncing away. That one, you know, your joints and your fingers, everything aches there. That's probably the worst for the whole body sort of ache afterwards. But yeah, and the tour and stuff is, well, obviously it's your legs and you just your heart and yeah, it's tough. But then you after a few days, it almost becomes, well, it's just the norm. It's what you're used to. You know,
that was one of the things that struck me about you describing your first tour experience. How you were getting better. You know, at the beginning you're hanging on a bit, and then you're kind of getting better. So you're kind of almost working your fitness up as you go. So starting any of the big tours, you presumably know exactly where you need to be, but by the end of it, you've done so much more work. So you're fitter rather than you're less fit. Whereas a lot of events, you'd think at the end of it, you'd be so exhausted, you know, that you wouldn't be in peak performance.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's something I've been lucky to always have is, or maybe you don't get fitter, but you just deteriorate less than everyone else.
Maybe that's what it is.
That's a good line.
So it's yeah, I've been lucky that I've always sort of had that engine really to do that. And yeah, you do some races and you do a week of hard racing, you're just like, there's no way I could do another day. But if the race is 10 days long, you still do it. You know, it's a mental thing as well. But then yeah, when you rest afterwards, you do feel, when you feel that fitness coming. That's the one thing I will miss. It's just that feeling of just being in peak shape.
What will you do?
Yeah, because how can you recreate what you do or what you have done for so long? Yeah, that mental buzz as well. It's exactly that mental buzz as well as the physical condition that you are in.
Yeah, I don't think you can really. I think it's more just, you know, I've said I want to do like London Marathon and stuff and some triathlons and whatever, to have some sort of goal to work towards, because for 20 odd years I've been working towards, you know, even as a 17, 18-year-old, you've got worlds that you're working towards or some big race here and there. And so to not have that would be, I think it would be hard to deal with, really.
Do you think that's maturity? I bet 25-year-old you thought that when you retired, you'd just go sit in the pub with your mates and eat burgers and not do any exercise.
Yeah, grass is always greener, isn't it? I think it's, but it's like that with food though, because I've said earlier today, it's like I thought when I'd retire, I'd just be like, just eat everything and it doesn't matter. But now I'm kind of like, well, I can eat whatever I want whenever I want now. So like when I was racing, I only had like a small window of like 4 weeks to just do it. So it just go a bit nuts. Whereas now I'm like, well, if I don't fancy that croissant, I'll just have one tomorrow or whenever I fancy it, you know. Like it's, yeah, that need to get it out of my system isn't really there anymore. So, and I also don't have anything to really get back into peak shape. So I'm like, I can't let myself go too much because, well,
I mean, at the moment, you don't look like you're letting yourself go too much at the moment.
It feels like I have though. It's like, and that's the thing. You see pictures then from when I was like, you know, winning the tours and stuff or whatever, and then you're like, I should, but that's just not normal. And like,
well, it isn't, is it?
No.
We've both been lucky enough, Mark and I, to be around kind of elite cyclists and elite distance runners, and you know, physically, you're like aliens, you know, in terms of the body fat percentages and everything else that you have to live by. So the mental buzz then, and the knowledge you have, it can't just go to waste, can it? What are you going to do with all your experience and your energy in terms of cycling?
Yeah, so with that, I'm very close to confirming it with the team now, of using that experience and knowledge basically to help the boys really, like be that sort of, it'll be a new role, so it's kind of figuring out where exactly it fits, but it's using that knowledge to help them prepare for their goals, execute the goals, and working, you know, alongside coaches and the DSs tactically, and so just spanning it all almost, and being kind of a go-between between management and the riders, and because most of the things that they'll be going through I would have gone through at some point, and have a good relationship with them as well. So I think they could probably be more open to me maybe than some of the staff on the team or whatever. So it's exciting though. It'll keep me involved in the real nitty-gritty of it, because that's what I loved. When you get onto the bus after a stage and you're kind of like debriefing the race, it's kind of like after a big night out, and you got everyone's got their own little story about what happened, and do you see that guy, and like that debrief from the race, and yeah, that's the bit, and that real like racing side.
So that's
the dressing room kind of?
Yeah. So is that, by the way, next time I'm on a big night out, the following morning I think this is just like being on the Tour de France. I'll flip it the other way around. Is it like a director of cycling role, or are you kind of like going to go in at assistant manager role, where you are that buffer between riders and management?
Yeah, I think it's more sort of in that the management, but on their side rather than being
a suit.
Yeah. Being wearing a tracksuit, not a suit.
Yeah,
be there on the ground and just helping the boys out, and like and making sure that it's all like aligned as well, because it's easy. In cycling, as we said, it's so individual because you've got to be in the peak physical performance, but you're part of a team and you need to perform for somebody else, or you have people riding for you, and it's easy to sort of become isolated almost, and going in your own direction, but it's not where the team needs you to be, type of thing. So it's making sure the coach is on the same wavelength as the rider, and the DSs, the tacticians and that, and the nutrition, and anything else is just going wrong, like your home environment. And so there's a lot going on, but there's a lot in there as well. When it comes to the book, it's all in there. It's just getting it out, and
Well, it's definitely a read, I think, for any young cyclist in particular, anybody interested in cycling, but any young cyclists who want to take inspiration from, and I mean this with the greatest respect, the ordinariness of your childhood, and I think that's so important, and the accessibility for the sport as well, because there is a cycling boom now, but but it is actually still at least a sport that entry point, it's not too expensive, and you can get into the sport. But as I say, it is now a huge industry. It's had a massive boom over the last 20 years. You guys winning Olympic golds in the way you did. The culture of the sport has changed, hasn't it? You must see that with the young riders kind of coming through now.
Yeah, massively, and just even the sport, like it's so much more data driven, and I'm still wearing this ring, like I don't even know why.
That's not your wedding ring, is it?
No, this is like a sleep ring and stuff, which I got it just to keep the coaches off my back, because then they just automatically uploaded onto my training peaks, and
so they can see it
and whatever. But like as you say, that there's been that cycling boom. Like everyone is so much more aware of cycling now. It's a big Olympic sport in the UK. The road side has obviously, been really good as well with the success we've had. And there's a lot of young good guys coming through. But yeah, like all the data and stuff, and the way. Well, just each generation's always different as well, isn't it? And I do feel old sometimes when I'm speaking to some of the boys, like Josh Tarlin, who's 21, 22, from Aberavon in Wales, and some of the things he comes out with, I'm just like, mate. Like, but yeah.
Are you proud of the role that you have had in that boom? Whether that is a Josh Tarlin at 21, 22, or whether that's 10 middle-aged men in Lycra on a Sunday morning doing a country bike ride, which has also come from that, what happened in the sort of mid to late 2000s onwards.
Yeah, I just feel fortunate to be a part of it, like none of it was specifically down to me, but to be part of that whole be part of that journey for not the very start, but the start of the boom, like in Beijing. I just feel so fortunate. Like I said last night, like, I had the Tour de France start in the UK twice. I was a part of our own Olympics, when I was in my peak for the track. I've, Commonwealth Games, like in the UK and stuff. And yeah, I think just fortunate that, you know, Tour of Britain is in September, so I can finish my career at home, and I just feel so lucky that, yeah, I've been able to do all those things, really.
You've done it on your terms, it sounds like, as well. At the moment, there's obviously this season in the Vuelta there was disruption with protesters on the route of the Tour, and it affects the final stage. And one of the great things about that and the Tour de France is the way the crowds can get so close. Do you think this is going to affect what's happened there? Is going to affect future tours on the road?
Yeah, hopefully not, because, you know, at the same time, it's obviously the protests and stuff is a complicated area, but I think, well, purely as an athlete, you just want to race your bike, do what you do safely, and that's it, really. Just want to train, go there, race, but the accessibility that the sport has is what makes it so great and so unique. You know, when you're going up Alpe d'Huez, like, guys have been there camping for like 2 days, like drunk off their heads, but it's just amazing, the atmosphere. But obviously it's a bit dodgy as well. If they start running alongside you, they've got bags and flags, and then it is a bit like, wow, this is, you know, just be sensible about it. But you get such a buzz off that. Like, I think that's probably the one thing I will miss as well. Like Alpe d'Huez is just insane. Like, in the Tour, like, some of those mountains, it's unbelievable. Just how close you can get as fans. You know, even at the start of the race, at the end of the race, in training, people can just come up and ride. Well, if they can ride alongside you for a while or not. But I think that's what makes cycling so great.
Do you have to prepare do you have to sort of prepare yourself to anticipate somebody jumping out?
Yeah, you kind of have to just be naive in a way, to just be like, right, this guy's not going to be too silly.
Yeah.
Because there is only one or two that run alongside you, but, you know, if they do trip over, it could be. But fortunately, I haven't really had anything too crazy like that. But just when I won, one guy did try to grab my shoulder on top of one of the mountains, but luckily just brushed him off type thing. But
I don't see how the sport, but bearing in mind what it is, how it can stop an overexcited fan or a protesting person. I don't see how it can.
No, not when it's like 180, 200k to B stages, like, and, you know, unless you start having circuits. And I think circuits are the way forward. It's just, you know, as a spectator, at least you get to see it 3 or 4 times rather than the Tour. You could be stood in a village for hours and then, like, 1 minute, boom, we're all past and that's it. So at least circuits is a bit better for spectators and safer. You know, the guys will know the circuit. You can make sure it's you know, the roads aren't, you know, cleaned or whatever, and so maybe that will become more a thing.
Do you think it will?
I think so. I think it's better all round. You know, you can do a bit more corporate stuff and get more money in the sport that way as well. And as I say, just purely to go out and watch it.
So instead of a 200-mile stage from A to B, you have a 50-mile circuit that you do 4 times.
Yeah, or like 50k to the circuit, and then you do 3 or 4 laps or whatever. Yeah, I think that's.
What did Chris Froome obviously rides for Israel Premier Tech, which was the team that was being protested against by pro-Palestinian protesters. What did he say about being in? Have you spoken to him about that experience with those protesters?
I haven't actually spoke to him. He wasn't at that race, but you know, I spoke to some of the boys, not from Israel Premier Tech, but just from that were at the race, and they said it was just a bit. Well, it was just a bit unsafe. They were just, some of them were scared, really, because, you know, you're coming down, you don't know if you're going 60, 70k an hour down a mountain, and there can be some guy, like one guy did try and run out in front of them. So, yeah, that's, but it's, like you're saying, how you can't police that. Like, you just hope.
That could kill both. That could kill both of them, couldn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's crazy, really. Like, I get the whole protesting about anything is fine, isn't it? But as long as it's the right way.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about INEOS and what it's like in that kind of whole INEOS hierarchy. And, you know, obviously from a football perspective, a lot more interest in INEOS over the last couple of years since Sir Jim Ratcliffe's taken over Manchester United. His first big foray into sport was cycling, obviously. He's since done sailing and he's done sub-2-hour marathons with INEOS. What is it like, that whole group?
It was was different to Sky in the way that they wanted to just be more involved and understand what was going on and things. But I think it was just unfortunate that when they come into the cycling team, it was, towards the end of our reign, so to speak. Because, in sport, it's hard to stay at the top for forever. It always comes in cycles, and they came in just as Pogacar came on the scene, and we won our first tour with INEOS, but then after that it was, well, we didn't. So we had a bit of other success, I was like on the podiums and stuff, but we weren't winning, which was tough. But it's, and then Dave obviously moved away a bit. I think he sort of was maybe a bit fatigued with it all, really. He'd been to every Grand Tour for about 11 years, I think. So, that's 33 Grand Tours from the start to finish. It's intense, So yeah, it was a difficult time, but as a rider, I just worried about myself. Really kept doing my own thing, as sort of I always have, in my own little world, and was still able to perform. But now, hopefully it's definitely on the way up, and you just want to get back to the top. That's where you want.
For your new role, have you had, maybe you didn't need to seek them, I don't know, but have you had reassurances that they are in cycling, that their attentions haven't been completely taken over by football?
Yeah, they still, like, I know Jim on a personal level, Sir Jim, is just to go out on the bike with for an hour or two, and he just loves cycling and stuff. Like, I don't really get too involved in the football side, or even the running of the team. Almost, it's more just as a rider, you just get he's passionate about it, that's for sure. So yeah, when it comes to the team, and for me, it's I can't really speak for INEOS, but I feel like they're involved for the next few years for sure. But yeah, it's all about I just want to, even though I won't be doing the riding, I just want to see the team back at the top, and it's quite an exciting time almost, because Dave's coming back more involved in the team and as a team principal, and it's just an exciting time ahead. It's just after it again. And
I can give you some, the next time you go on the bike ride on the football side of things, I can give you some notes to pass on if you want.
He's a sub 4 hour marathon runner as well. So I know you said you want to do London Marathon. That might be a challenge to to race alongside him in that one. But I'm pretty sure you'd be sub 3 with your engine. But he's not bad at that, is he? I think for his age, he's got a pretty quick time. He dashed off from the marathon a couple of years ago to go and watch Man United in the FA Cup semi-final, I remember, on the same day. So yeah, he's definitely got the energy, and as have you, presumably, to take on that role. That means being away from home still quite a lot.
Yeah, but it's kind of like just normal to me, really. Be home more for sure, but I think if I just went from just going cold turkey and just being home and just all the time, I think I just go a bit nuts,
Surely golf will come. I mean, it always does with every ex-sportsman, doesn't it? Is that not a kind of a potential obsession on the horizon?
I'd like to. I've had one lesson. I'd like maybe a couple more, just so I could get around a golf course. But
and did you take to it immediately after one lesson?
Oh, I was good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
But no, it's just I'd love to do that, or a bit of paddle, or just do other things. That's what I'm looking forward to doing.
Skiing.
As well.
Andy Murray obviously had his interesting first foray into skiing post tennis when he got rescued off the mountain.
Oh really? I didn't hear about that. But
yeah,
we've booked our first skiing holiday as well as a family. We're going in January to Alpe d'Huez, actually, of all places.
Oh, yeah. And this is where.
Yeah. But no, yeah.
Never been on skis before.
Never.
Wow.
So I'll be in ski school.
I imagine balance. You'll be pretty good. I imagine with your balance, you'll take to that pretty good. I think you'll be all right.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Have you set a time for?
Get rescued off the mountain.
Have you set a target time for the marathon?
No, not at the minute. But I'm trying to not get too carried away and just do, because everyone's told me take it easy, because the impact and stuff, like riding a bike, you don't. Yeah, your joints. Yeah, so it's but sub 3 seems to be the gold.
Yeah, you do sub 3.
Yeah, it's just like
you get on BBC One if you do sub 3.
Do you?
Or
sure, that's a big incentive for you.
Or you do sub 5 and they take pity on you and stay on, which is what they did for me.
We got you on BBC Two.
The problem
Story
is
of my life, that, Gabby. Crikey.
The problem is for me though, my brother's quite a good runner. Like I think he's like 2:26 or something.
Oh my god!
What?
So that's gonna wind me up.
Oh,
so
golly!
He's 4 years younger than me though, so I'll always have that as an excuse. But
wow,
I can't see myself going that quick. But
in the back of your head, you're thinking it though, are you?
I'm thinking, bastard. Can't win them all, can you?
It seems like there's lots on the horizon for you to get involved with. There's definitely going to be no kicking kind of back and just twiddling your thumbs and being a mere mortal. And the energy levels are clearly going to be used up well. But yeah, the book, I have to say, it's a great read and a really inspiring one, I think, for kids wanting to get into the sport.
Thanks. Yeah, it was, as I say, it was great to do. It was great to sort of reminisce properly and nice to get it all in there, you know. And it's there forever now, which is kind of. It's a weird thought,
yeah.
And the book, according to G, is out now. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
The Sports Agents.
With Gabby Logan and Mark Chapman.